Daniel, a single father, was walking home with his little daughter as the evening sky faded into shades of purple. The park was nearly empty, the silence broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. Just as they were about to leave the pathway, a faint, broken cry drifted through the air. Daniel stopped, his daughter clutching his hand, sensing something was wrong. He followed the sound, his heart pounding faster with each step. There, under the dim glow of a flickering street lamp, they saw a sight that froze them both. A young woman, her business suit torn and dirt-stained, was bound tightly to a tree. A crude sign hung from her chest with chilling words scrawled across it, "White man don't forgive." The phrase struck Daniel like a blow, confusing and frightening, yet the woman's bruised face and tear-filled eyes spoke louder than the sign. She didn't need judgment, she needed help. Daniel looked around anxiously, his mind racing with fear of what dangers might still be lurking nearby. His daughter tugged at his sleeve, whispering, "Daddy, she's hurt. We have to help her." In that moment, Daniel's hesitation vanished. His own struggles as a widowed father had taught him the weight of pain and loneliness, and he couldn't walk away. With trembling hands but steady resolve, he stepped forward, whispering softly to the woman, "You're safe now." His daughter slipped off her small scarf and offered it with innocent compassion, as if to remind them both that even in the darkest moments, kindness could still shine. Daniel's hands worked quickly, fumbling against the knots that bound the young woman to the rough bark of the tree. Every tug felt heavier than the last, his mind filled with questions: who would do this? Why her? And what danger might still be nearby? His daughter stood close, her wide eyes darting nervously around the shadowed park. Finally, the ropes gave way, and the woman collapsed into his arms. She was trembling, her breath shallow, her face streaked with tears and dirt. Daniel steadied her, speaking gently, "It's all right. You're free now. No one's going to hurt you anymore." His voice, though calm, carried the quiet strength of a man who knew struggle himself. The woman tried to speak, her voice hoarse, but only a whisper escaped, why are you helping me?" Daniel paused, meeting her broken gaze. He had no grand answer, just a simple truth. "Because someone has to." His daughter, sensing the woman's pain, pulled the small scarf from around her own neck and carefully wrapped it over the woman's bruised wrist. "It's warm," she said softly, her innocence piercing through the heaviness of the moment. Daniel looked at his daughter and felt a quiet surge of pride. He knew the risks of stepping in, but he also knew the cost of walking away would be far greater. In that fragile silence beneath the trees, a choice was made, not of fear, but of humanity. And that choice was about to change all of their lives. As Daniel guided the weakened woman along the dim path, his daughter walking carefully by her side, the silence finally broke. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "They wanted me gone, they wanted me ruined." Daniel glanced at her, waiting for her to continue. She hesitated, then spoke with more weight. "I'm a CEO. I exposed corruption in my own company. The people I trusted, they turned on me. Tonight was their warning." Her words stunned Daniel. To him, she looked far too young to carry such a title, yet her eyes carried the exhaustion of someone who had fought battles far beyond boardrooms. For all her wealth and influence, she had been left abandoned, powerless, and broken, her life hanging by a thread until a struggling father and his child stumbled upon her. Daniel tightened his grip on her arm to steady her steps. "Power doesn't make you untouchable," he said quietly, almost as if speaking to himself. "It's people who stand by you that make you strong." The woman lowered her gaze, her voice cracking. "I thought money could protect me. I thought I didn't need anyone. But tonight," she looked at Daniel and his daughter, who offered her a small, encouraging smile. "It was kindness that saved me, not wealth." In that moment, the distance between their worlds, one of privilege, one of struggle, began to blur. She realized she was alive not because of her position, but because compassion had reached out when everything else had failed. Daniel led the young woman into his modest home, a small, weathered house that smelled faintly of old wood and warm soup. The contrast was striking. Just hours ago, she had been surrounded by boardrooms, glass towers, and people who bowed to her power. Now, she sat at a wobbly kitchen table, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, her bruises illuminated by the soft glow of a single lamp. His daughter eagerly placed a steaming bowl of soup before her, beaming with pride as if she had prepared it herself. The woman lifted the spoon with shaking hands, tasting the simple meal. Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain, but from the unfamiliar comfort it carried. She looked around the tiny home, peeling paint, second-hand furniture, dishes carefully stacked to hide the cracks, and then at the little girl, whose laughter filled the room with warmth. Despite the hardships, there was love here. A richness she had never found in her world of skyscrapers and luxury. Daniel noticed her silent reflection. "We don't have much," he admitted, sitting across from her, "but what we do have, we share." His voice was steady, free of bitterness, only filled with quiet dignity. For the first time in years, the woman felt something money had never bought her. Belonging. She realized that true wealth wasn't measured in accounts or assets, but in the selfless act of giving, even when you have little to spare. And in this small, humble home, she found more humanity than she had ever known in her empire of power. The next morning, sunlight streamed gently through the curtains, painting the small kitchen in gold. The woman sat at the table, her wounds cleaned, her spirit steadier than the night before. Daniel was quietly packing his daughter's school bag, humming softly as if the chaos of last night had never happened. She watched them with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "You saved me," she said softly. Daniel looked up, offering a humble smile. Anyone would have done the same. But she knew that wasn't true. She had seen enough of the world to understand how rare it was for someone with so little to risk so much. Before leaving, she promised she wouldn't forget their kindness. Daniel shook his head. "Just teach my daughter that kindness still matters," he said simply, as if that was the only reward he needed. His daughter hugged the woman tightly, whispering, "Be safe." Months passed. One crisp autumn morning, a sleek black car pulled up outside Daniel's small home. The woman stepped out, not in a torn suit this time, but with confidence and purpose in her eyes. She had returned, not with gifts of money, but with opportunity, an education fund for his daughter, a job for Daniel, and the assurance that they would never struggle alone again. As tears blurred his vision, Daniel realized one act of compassion had changed all their lives. And as the woman smiled, she knew the greatest lesson wasn't about power or wealth, it was about the quiet strength of humanity that saves us when nothing else can.